That evening, the house was quiet except for the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. The chessboard was cleared away, pieces tucked back into their box. But the air between Emma and Jack was charged with a new kind of tension, one that felt gentle but heavy with unspoken meaning. Emma sat on the couch, her fingers tracing absent-minded patterns on the soft fabric of her sweater. Jack was standing by the window, looking out at the fading light of the Seattle skyline. His usual playful confidence was replaced with something more vulnerable. Something raw. She watched him for a moment, unsure whether to break the silence. Finally, she spoke softly. "So, what's the wish?" Jack turned from the window, his eyes meeting hers with a tenderness that made her heart flutter. He took a deep breath and smiled. A smile that was both nervous and full of hope. "I want to take you back to the place where we first met." Emma blinked, a little surprised. The words felt so simple but carried a weight she hadn't expected. That small coffee shop downtown, the one tucked between a bookstore and a flower shop, was a place they both loved. A place that had marked the beginning of everything they now shared. For a moment, Emma was silent, letting the memory wash over her. It had been a rainy October afternoon, the kind of day where the world feels wrapped in a cozy gray blanket. Emma had ducked into the coffee shop to escape the drizzle, her hair still damp and her coat soaked. She remembered ordering a chai latte, her hands trembling slightly from the cold and nerves. Jack was there too, sitting alone at a corner table with a book, but he had looked up when she walked in. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. A spark, an invitation. Neither of them knew then how much that moment would change their lives. The thought of returning there, to that simple, honest place where everything began, stirred something deep inside Emma. "Are you serious?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack nodded. "Yes, I know we've both been busy with work and life, and sometimes it feels like we're drifting apart, even if we don't want to. But I never stopped wanting you. I never stopped wanting us." His words made Emma's chest tighten. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the longing he carried beneath his calm exterior. "I want to remember why we started this," Jack continued, stepping closer and taking her hand gently in his. "To remind ourselves what this love means, beyond the chaos." Emma looked down at their intertwined fingers, feeling the warmth and the steady pulse beneath her palm. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes about connection, about hope, about a shared future. Tears welled up in Emma's eyes. "I want that too," she said quietly. The room felt suddenly smaller, as if their hearts were expanding. To fill the space, the ordinary evening transformed into something tender and sacred. Jack brushed a loose strand of hair from Emma's face, his touch light and careful. "I lost on purpose, you know," he said, his voice low. "Not because I wanted to give up, but because sometimes winning means more than just winning a game. It means letting go, trusting you, and giving you something that mattered more than pride or competition." Emma smiled through her tears, the weight of the moment settling around them like a warm embrace. "I never thought a game could mean so much," she whispered. Jack leaned in, his forehead resting gently against hers. "Neither did I," he admitted. "But it does, because it's us." They stayed like that for a long while, wrapped in quiet understanding. Outside, the city lights began to twinkle, but inside, time felt suspended. Emma realized that this was a turning point, a promise to fight for what they had, to cherish the moments that mattered, and to remember the roots of their love as they held each other. The wish wasn't just about revisiting a place. It was about rediscovering the spark, the connection, and the deep, quiet love that had brought them together in the first place. And in that wish they found something precious, the hope of a new beginning. The morning sun cast a soft glow over the city of Seattle as Emma and Jack drove quietly toward the downtown area. The streets hummed with early activity, people walking dogs, sipping coffee at outdoor tables. Now the faint sound of a street musician playing a gentle tune in the distance. It was a perfect day to revisit the past. Emma's fingers nervously tapped on her lap while Jack kept stealing glances at her from the driver's seat. Both felt a strange mixture of anticipation and vulnerability, as if they were stepping into a moment that would redefine everything. After a few turns, the small coffee shop came into view, nestled between the old bookstore and the flower shop just as it had been years ago. The same faded green awning stretched over the door, and the windows still bore the faint smudges of countless rainy days. Emma's heart beat faster. This place wasn't just a building, it was where their story began. Where two strangers had tentatively reached out to each other. Unaware of the deep connection that would soon grow between them, Jack pulled the car to a stop and they sat. For a moment, neither quite ready to step out. Emma finally reached for Jack's hand, their fingers intertwining naturally, just like old times. "You ready?" he asked softly. Emma nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I think so." Inside, the smell of freshly ground coffee and baked pastries enveloped them like a warm blanket. The barista smiled as they entered, and for a brief moment, time seemed to slow. They chose the same corner table they had sat at all those years ago. A small wooden table with a view of the rain-streaked street. The table was scarred and worn, but to Emma and Jack, it held a kind of magic dot. Jack reached across the table and took Emma's hand. "Do you remember the first time we sat here?" Emma smiled, the memory flooding back. "You were so nervous." "You've spilled your coffee," Jack chuckled. "And you laughed instead of getting mad." They shared a quiet laugh, the kind that comes from deep affection and shared history for a while. They simply sat together, letting the sounds of the coffee shop wash over them, the soft chatter, the clinking of cups, the hiss of the espresso machine. It was peaceful, a gentle reminder of the simpler times before life had grown complicated. Jack looked at Emma, his eyes searching hers. "I wanted to come back here because I needed to remember what it felt like to be with you before all the distractions, before work, bills, and everything else." Emma nodded, feeling tears prick her eyes. "I know. Sometimes I feel like we forget to really see each other, like we're just passing through the days." Jack squeezed her hand. "That's why I lost that game on purpose. It wasn't about the bet. It was about making a choice to prioritize us, to reconnect." Emma's voice softened. "And now that we're here, it feels like maybe we can." They talked for hours, reminiscing about the early days, their awkward first date, the endless conversations, the shared dreams. They spoke of the challenges they had faced, the moments of doubt, and the quiet hope that had kept them together. With every word, the distance that had grown between them seemed to shrink. The walls they had built around their hearts started to crumble, replaced by trust and understanding. At one point, Jack pulled out a small notebook from his jacket pocket, a habit Emma had always loved. Inside were little notes, sketches, and reminders he'd made over the years about their traits, as they are own minders he'd made over the years about their twait. And we all know I've been exploring that. We all know I've been exploring that path. Jack pulled out a small notebook. "When we saw God's Sive, as I can't want my quate, with Thover by we saw, at we know Sover with sly candis, sifties, chared, I regade with quate dot up, sick kai six sec, la2, kata six kata kai to see ka with us, to we to ki, I can I you to kai can you we to sister kai to you to go with us, cup to cat few ka for cat at the cat to we could out get what us get at relationship things he wanted to remember, moments he didn't want to forget. Emma's eyes welled with tears again. "Why didn't you ever show me this?" Jack shrugged, a little embarrassed. "I guess I was afraid you'd think I was being silly. But now I want to share everything with you." Emma reached over and traced her fingers over the notebook's pages. Each note was a testament to his love, from the night they watched the stars to the simple Sunday mornings they spent wrapped in blankets. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt seen, truly seen, not just as a wife or partner, but as someone deeply cherished. As the afternoon light began to fade, Jack stood and held out his hand. "Come on," he said with a smile. "Let's take a walk." Outside, the cool air was fresh and crisp. They wandered slowly down the street, hand in hand, the quiet city around them a perfect backdrop to their renewed connection. Jack stopped at a small park bench and pulled Emma close. "I don't want to lose this again," he whispered. "Don't want us to ever forget how much we mean to each other." Emma looked up into his eyes, her own filled with hope and love. "We won't," she promised. "Not now. Not ever." They stood there, wrapped in each other's arms. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the first stars began to appear, in that moment, surrounded by the familiar and the new, Emma and Jack found something precious. A second chance, to rebuild, to heal, and to love more deeply than before. And as they walked back to the car, hand in hand, they both knew that this was more than a visit to an old coffee shop. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one written not just with words, but with heart. The evening settled softly over their home in Seattle, a calmness that contrasted sharply with the emotional whirlwind of the day. Outside, the city lights blinked quietly, painting a shimmering backdrop through the living room window. Inside, Emma and Jack sat close together on the couch, the quiet hum of the night wrapping around them like a warm blanket. The house felt different now, not because anything had changed physically, but because the air was charged with a new sense of hope, fragile yet undeniable. They had returned from their visit to the coffee shop, a place where the past had intertwined with the present, reminding them both of the love they once shared and the love still waiting to be nurtured. Jack glanced at Emma, his eyes soft and vulnerable in the dim light. "I don't want us to go back to how things were before," he said gently. "The drifting, the silence. I want us to win together." Emma turned toward him, her heart swelling with a mix of relief and affection. "Me too," she whispered. "But how do we make sure it doesn't happen again?" Jack sighed, running a hand through his hair as if trying to find the right words. "I think it starts with honesty, with really talking. No pretending everything's fine when it's not, and with making time for each other no matter how busy life gets." Emma nodded slowly, feeling the truth of his words settle deep inside her. "I want that too. I want us to remember what this feels like, the way we felt today. Not just on special days, but every day." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of years pressing gently on their shoulders but no longer threatening to pull them apart. Instead, it felt like a shared load, one they could carry together. Jack reached out, taking Emma's hand in his. "I lost that game on purpose," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "Because sometimes winning isn't about beating the other person, it's about choosing them." Over and over again. Emma smiled, tears threatening to spill, but held back by the sheer strength of the moment. "I've been waiting for you to say that," she said softly. "Because I've been choosing you too." They leaned into each other, their foreheads resting together as if grounding themselves in the simple act of being close. It was a moment of quiet reconciliation, a promise whispered without words. As the night deepened, they talked more about their dreams, their fears, the little things that made life beautiful and hard all at once. They made plans, not just for the coming weeks, but for the years ahead. Building a vision rooted in love and mutual respect, Emma thought about how easy it was to get lost in routines, how quickly the small acts of affection could be forgotten in the noise of everyday life. But tonight was a reminder, a gentle, powerful reminder that love was a living thing that needed care and attention. Jack brushed a soft kiss against Emma's temple, and she felt the tenderness radiate through her. "Thank you for believing in us," he murmured. Emma smiled against his shoulder. Thank you for losing on purpose, she teased gently, her voice full of warmth. They laughed softly, the sound like a balm on old wounds. In that laughter, there was healing and hope. As they finally rose to prepare for bed, Emma paused and looked back at Jack. No more games, she said firmly but lovingly. Jack grinned, taking her hand. No more games. It's just us. That night, as they lay side by side, their fingers entwined, Emma felt a quiet peace settle over her. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're meant to be with the person who chooses you. Every single day. And in the stillness of their shared breath, they both understood that sometimes the greatest victory in love isn't about winning the game. It's about losing on purpose so that you can win each other's hearts again. The city lights of Seattle twinkled faintly through the living room window as Emma and Jack settled into the quiet comfort of their home. The day's lingering emotions hung gently in the air between them, a mix of relief, hope, and the quiet promise of change. After their visit to the coffee shop, the place where their story had first begun, something inside both of them had shifted like a weight had been lifted. Jack pulled the soft blanket tighter around Emma's shoulders as they sat side by side on the couch, their hands slowly finding each other's in the dim glow of the lamp. There was a softness in his eyes, something new and tender that Emma hadn't seen in a long time. I don't want us to go back to the way things were, Jack said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. The distance, the silence. I want us to move forward together. Not as two people sharing a house, but as partners who really see each other. Emma nodded, her heart swelling with both relief and cautious hope. Me too, but it's going to take work. Can't just wish it back. We have to build it every day. Jack smiled, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I know, and I'm ready for that. I want us to be more honest, more open, to say what we really feel, even when it's hard. She squeezed his hand gently. I've missed this, us talking like this. Really talking? For a moment, they simply sat there, letting the silence settle comfortably between them. It was the kind of silence that isn't empty, but full of understanding and connection. Jack's voice broke the quiet again, softer now. I lost on purpose that day. Not because I wanted to give up, but because I wanted to show you how much you mean to me. How much I'm willing to put us before anything else. Emma's eyes shimmered with tears, but she smiled through them. I felt it, Jack. I felt it more than you know. They leaned into each other, their foreheads resting together as if grounding themselves in the moment. It was an unspoken promise to cherish, to protect, and to nurture what they had, no matter how difficult life might get. As the night deepened, they talked about everything, their hopes, their fears, the little moments that made life feel both beautiful and complicated. They made plans, not just for the next few days, but for the years ahead. A future where love wasn't just a feeling, but a daily choice. An ongoing commitment. Emma thought about how easy it was to lose sight of each other in the rush of daily life. Work deadlines, chores, stress. But tonight reminded her that love was alive even in the small things. A shared smile, a gentle touch, a quiet conversation. Jack kissed her temple softly. Thank you for believing in us, for choosing me. Emma smiled against his skin. Thank you for losing on purpose, she teased, her voice warm and playful. They laughed softly together, a sound that felt like healing. When it was finally time for bed, Emma stood for a moment by the window, looking out at the peaceful city. She felt a calm she hadn't known in a long time. Turning back to Jack, she felt ready to start this new chapter, to build a life grounded in love and honesty. No more games, she said firmly but kindly. Jack grinned. No more games, just us, as they lay side by side, hands entwined. Emma felt the steady rhythm of Jack's breathing next to her. It was a quiet reminder that sometimes the greatest victory in love isn't about winning, it's about losing on purpose, so you can find your way back to each other. And tonight, in the stillness of their home, They both knew they were exactly where they were meant to be.